Rails project, and I'll just explain to you kind of how this is working. Ready? So we'll do Rails, Rails new, right? No? Oh, some of you were like, no. So Rails new. What app would you like to build today? You want to build Gmail just in one hour lecture? Oh man, if I could build Gmail in an hour, I would not be here. Actually, I would. I like teaching. Smart. Anything? Any ideas? Ugh. Let's go to Flavortown. Let's go to Flavortown. To-do list? All right, listen, I'm going to pause the recording for like 2 seconds. Right back. So, we just created this app, right? What do I do now? What do I do now? Cool. Let's go to Flavortown, right? What do we remember about Rails? Do I have anything in here right now? I have the basic Rails skeleton, right? There's nothing else in here. So let's build some stuff. How do I build things in Rails? Rails G resource, right? But what is resource? What does resource do? It creates whole MVC, does it? All right. You forgot, that's okay. That's exactly right. Rails G resource, again, will build you the model, the controller, empty view folder, and it will add resources for that model in your routes file. So you will have, out of the box, all 7 RESTful routes. That's what it does. What does this do? You weren't allowed to use it for your projects, but what does this do? If you were to say this builds full MVC and CRUD, you would be correct. And I will show you here right now. Great, so what do we have in Flavortown? Let's just put burger, all right? Burger. Restaurant's good, but then I would have to do some sort of relationship. I'm not feeling that right now, right? And what does burger have? Toppings? All right. Sure. Some sort of meat? Sure. Some sort of bread? Seed bouillon. Cool. I like that. Fine. You know what? You know what? This is getting out of control. We're just going to leave it at toppings, meat, and seed. Ridiculous. Oh, stop the madness. I don't have SQLite 3. Oh, is that silly thing again that you guys are running into? Oh, because the new Rails is jacked up, right? All right. What you guys been changing it to? Yeah, something like that. Let's do this. We should be using Postgres, but it's all right. Oh God, I got a bundle again. I'm bursting. Cool. Let's see what happens. Great. All right. So that's done, right? Let's take a look at what that built for us. Actually, better yet, let's just migrate, and then finally, let's start the server just to see the magic happen. Cool? A little bit of this, a little bit of this, and what is this? Burgers? Let's check this out. Wow. Wow. I can make a new burger. There's a link to here already for me. Let's make it. New burger. What are my toppings? There's no CSS on this. Fine. Let us tomato, and onion. Right? What's the meat? Tofu? Crab. Interesting. Sesame seed? Wow. Crave burger. Whoa, that's the show page. Notice the routes. Cool. I can go back to my index, show, edit, destroy. Let's edit it, right? All right, BLT, update, back, destroy. Are you sure? Definitely not. That's a delicious burger. Cool, full CRUD, 2 minutes. Yeah, we didn't want you to use this, obviously, right? Because it doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't teach you anything, right? But let's take a look at the source code. Does anyone else want to marvel at this for 2 more seconds? All right, I'll give you 2 seconds. Great. So, what Scaffold will build for you? You were not lied to. We specifically told you not to use it because it doesn't teach you anything. I said that already, right? Like imagine you saw this, right, on day 1, which we used to do, by the way. I have since changed the curriculum. You would be like, okay, great. The entire time you're learning this, you're going to think, I don't need this. I can just use Scaffold. Why am I learning this? I can use Scaffold. Like, why am I doing this? I can just use Scaffold. The entire time your Mod 2 experience is ruined, right? Yes, I said that. So, look at this. Cool, right? It is, right? A couple things I want to explain here, and that is, it looks like there's some sort of comment that says get to burgers, right? And get to burgers.json. Before I get to that, let's actually make a new burger, right? We got another one here? A cheese. Okay. Blue, like you want to spell it the fancy way? EU? Bleu? Great. What kind of meat do you want on there? Wow. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in, what is that? I'm in Flavor Town. There we go. Sesame seeds? Trash, right? Trash. Great. So, you see my index, right? Baku. Very good. I spelled it wrong. Sorry. So, the point I'm trying to make is that this right here, right, is essentially this HTML. Right? I went to burgers.html because what am I rendering here when in my Rails controller? Render index.erb. But that's really kind of like the Rails Ruby, embedded Ruby template for an HTML file, right? Because while you are technically correct in the sense that this right here is going to render some sort of burger, html.erb, this gets rendered inside this application, right? It gets yielded. Do you remember this? And so burgers.html gives me back the response in HTML so that my browser knows what to do with it. Right, like Firefox, Opera, Mozilla, is Firefox, Chrome, sorry. Right, we'll take the HTML and paint it on the screen for you. It will render in a way that you are familiar with on websites. However, what have we been working with in JavaScript? Have you been working with HTML? In the sense that when you make your fetch requests, what are you accepting and sending back? What do you expect to get from the server? Cool. And so when we run the JSON server, what do we normally see? We see something like this, right? Reddit.com users.json. And that is some sort of object, right? Some JSON object with a bunch of data, right? So these children is an array, and you have this object in here, this object in here, this object in here. It can get really nested, messy, right? And detailed and long. So far, so good? Wouldn't it be nice if I can just maybe see all of these burgers, instead of in HTML, get them back in JSON. Cool? What do these look like to you? Right, they're just objects. It's an array of objects. Those are my burger objects. How come this worked? Burgers.json. Rails is magic, right? But more specifically, burgers controller. I can either do a get to burgers or a get to burgers.json. This is what Scaffold will build for me. It will build automatically under the hood something like in index, if the user is asking for, do you remember I used to do this to kind of lead you up to it? Or Mike would do this. Hey, what do I need from the model? And then he said, what is the response? He said response specifically. And then you would just be like, oh, the response is render. And then you would render index, right? Some of you are pretty lazy, and you would just be like, oh, it's inherent, and I would just not need it. Cool? I mean lazy in like the developer lazy, not like attacking you personally, all right? Some of you are like, I'm lazy. Cool. Wouldn't it be nice if there was some sort of response, right? Respond to do. What is the format, this format block? If they want HTML, I can send them index.html. If they want JSON, I can render JSON and then this resource, which will be burgers. So here you see it right here in the crate. Respond to if the burger saves, right? If they want HTML, you redirect them to burger show page. Otherwise, JSON, you can send the show, created, and some sort of location. Are you following along so far? You don't have to understand the syntax, just the idea that you can serve up either HTML or JSON. So far, so good. Just on that one sentence. Cool. Great. That's all I wanted to show you in Scaffold. And that it's like magic, right? So the idea here is, do you need to ever send back HTML if you're using Rails just to kind of host all of your data as like a database? No, right? Rails has a lot of auto magic in it, as you've seen. And there is a gem inside Rails that's built in called Action View. What Action View will do is it will do all of that auto magic, and that is it will take this right here. It will inherently understand what this yields. It will yield the ERB based on the controller that you send. So Action View is doing a lot for you under the hood. Naturally, that package is very big. Do you want to build out a Goliath of a Rails app with all of the extra options that you never will use? No. So let's get rid of it. What we can do is we can get out of this, right? And we can do Rails new, and then we can make Flavortown API. Right? So I'm just going to build a brand new Rails app, except this time I'm going to get rid of all of the extra things in Rails that is built and designed with the front end. Meaning, will you want Rails to ever build an ERB file? Will you ever have to touch Form 4 ever again? No, because you're building the Form 4 where? In your JavaScript front end. You don't need the Rails helpers anymore. Does that make sense? So naturally, there's a flag --API where it will build a much leaner version of Rails, and it does not have the Action View library. It also takes away a couple other things, so let's take a look. Here I have Flavortown, and I have Flavortown API. All right, so far so good? So let's take a look. In my app, in my controllers, look, the folders already look smaller. Look at app. So I have app here, and then I have app here. Slightly smaller already, just in my app folder. Let's take a look at my controller. Where is this inheriting from? Action Controller Base. That's the Flavortown regular API, regular Rails project that you're used to, excuse me. Here, I'm inheriting from a different part of this. Yeah? Look at my views. I only have the mailer. I don't have application anymore because I know I'm never going to send back HTML. I'm never going to have that layout.erb. So far, so good? Great. Now, that being said, let's build this out. Cool. Let's CD into Flavortown API. And what do I need to build out this application? What is like the most important thing? Do I need to ever build any sort of views? No. I'll probably need some sort of model though, right? So my data is kind of like the ORM, it's mapping. Cool. Let's start with the controller first. Yeah. There's this idea that you'll see there are different versions to your API. If you ever wanted to update the way your API sends back data, there's something called namespacing, right? So traditionally, you'll have something like API / v1 / and then your actual controller that you need. That way, if you ever want to upgrade to a different version, you can make a brand new controller called API / v2 / and then that model or that controller. That way, v1 is still up and running. Anyone using your API, making fetch requests to your API or your front end, doesn't have to shut down. You can have version 1 still up and running while you build out version 2, and then eventually you can deprecate version 1 and force everyone on version 2. But you do that so that both can be up at the same time. Does that make sense? So when you build out your controller, how do I build out a controller? RailsG controller, right? Oh, that's wrong. Controller. Very good. Controller. Cool. And what do you guys want to build? We're already in Flavortown, but we can build anything you want. Soda? Beverage. Okay. Beverage. Beverage. Cool. What would this build me? What does this look like? What does RailsG controller build you? But what's the file name? And what's the structure? Beverages controller, right? As I mentioned earlier, what I really want is something like API / version 1 / beverage. Cool. Oh, I think Spring is going to mess me up again, right? Yeah. All right. Where is it? Here we go. Gem file. I'm just going to rip it from the other one. Something dirty like that. Cool. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. Nice. All right, we can get rid of this old one, right? Cool. So here in my controller, I have a folder called API with a folder called v1, beverage controller. Notice the namespacing here. So far, so good? Great. What else do we need? Probably the model. And what do we want for the model? Right? It could be API v1 beverage. Typically, the model doesn't change as much. So we can just do beverage here. Although you can do that, right? You can do API v1 beverage model. Cool. So what are the attributes of beverage? Size. Cool. Integer or string? Integer or string? Okay. What? Oh, I just didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, we'll do fizzy Boolean and fun Boolean. Cool? This is the fun beverage. You know what I mean? I don't know if I want to put it in like the app, right? Let me just get one string. Name. Can we do name? Cool. Great. So how can I test this? Well, I should probably migrate first, right? Okay, Rails console. Beverage.all. It exists, and I can just create. Dang it! You guys got me good. You guys got me good. Now I have to do all of this. What is the size? 1, whatever. Fizzy. 1. You like that? Just kidding. You guys remember when you do like the checkbox? If it's like a Boolean, it accepts 1 and 0. Cool. Fun. Wow. Great. I'm curious what this is going to be now. All right, we'll call it Chang Pop. Cool. I don't know if I want to be like drinking Mike Chang juice, you know? You know what I'm saying? Let's think that through. Oh, embarrassing. Great. Chang Pop. Cool. Great. So that totally worked, right? Now, boop, boop, boop. You want to make another one? Let's make another one. Size. This is supersized. Cool. Is it fizzy? No. Okay. Is it fun? Always. Great. And what's the name of this large, not fizzy, fun juice? Water. Okay. Long Island water. Cool. Get a Long Island water. Just mix and matching everything. Great. I'm gonna exit out of here. And now let's take a look at how can I look at this? How can I now like see this information? Knowing that I have some ability to kind of look at .json, how can I possibly look at this data? If I fetch it, right? Let's think through this. If I fetch it to localhost 3000, what URL am I fetching to? What's the first error I get into if I were to go localhost 3000 / beverages? No routes, right? You forgot Rails already? It's all right, it'll come back. Cool. Let's take a look at these. Let's take a look at these routes. Empty. I got nothing. Scaffold was pretty magic. But we did not use resources, remember. So, how do I build these routes? I need some sort of like API /v1 / and then my RESTful routes, right? It'll be like beverages, like a get to beverages or something like that. I need to be able to build something like, I don't know, get to, so familiar? Come on, clowns. Oh yeah, right, I'm at v1. Smort. Cool. And this is gonna point to what controller? Beverages controller, just like this? Look at this. Cool. I probably need some sort of API. How do I do this? V1, something like that? This is kind of weird, right? So instead of doing this, let's see how we can do what is lovely named namespacing routes in Rails. Cool. I wonder how I can namespace in Rails. Let's see. Dang it, there's no, all right, we'll use the Ruby docs. Cool. Namespace. Wow, it's just called namespace. And if I nest the namespace of admin and then I put resources, I get something like /admin /articles. Admin /articles index. It looks like exactly what I want to do. All right, except instead of admin, it's API. Cool? So I have namespace. Is it namespace or namespaces? Namespace. Cool. With something like API. Do. All right. Then I want what? Yes, another namespace, v1, do. And then finally, my resources, beverage is. Cool. How can I check to see if that's correct? Check my routes, right? Isn't that what I wanted? A get to API v1 beverages with some sort of controller being API v1 beverages. Yeah? Great. So now the idea is I have index, I have all my RESTful routes. Cool? So far so good? So inside my beverages controller, what do I need in here to show all my beverages? Yeah, a little bit of this. Remember this? Cool. What do I need in index? Add bevs, right? Equals to. Starting to come back. And then how do I, remember this is the model, because MVC needs the model. Then it needs to send back the, and what is the response here? What are we going to render back? JSON. But what do we want to send back? We want to send back the bevs. But more specifically now, we also have to send back something else that's important. And that is, or okay. Cool? Because now we are just the server. We have to let the front end know, was it good, was it bad? Theoretically, I can send back a status of 400. It will give me all the bevs and then tell me status 400. That would be very confusing to a user, right? Like, why is this getting a status 400, which is a bad status, but I'm still getting all my data? So be careful about what you're sending here, right? Status okay defaults to 200. This is sort of like nomenclature, common knowledge in HTTP statuses, all right? Let's test this. How can I possibly go here? What would be the route that I want to check out? So I have some sort of localhost 3000 beverages. API v1 beverages, right? This is going to mess you up for a little bit, and that's okay, because it's new. So let's do that. If I were to go to localhost 3000,
Is it not going to work though because your controller is named singular? Does that matter?
huh? Let's find out. It's not. It's Mort. You're right. I done goofed. Cool. 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 Any questions on how I got here? Or what that error was? One of you definitely knew what it was. Just want to make sure everyone else knew what that error was. The error was that it was beverage, singular in the controller and in the actual file name. And then here I was looking for beverages and it did not line up. So I just simply pluralized it. Cool. And there it is. There's our data. Right as rain. Now that I've seen this, and you've seen this before, right? When you run your DB JSON, right? Your JSON server, DB watch DB JSON, doesn't it look like this? From here, are you now comfortable running your asynchronous JavaScript to get this data? Where do I put what in Atom? Correct. It would be a separate repository because this is your backend, and then naturally your front end would be different, right? I would actually have some HTML file in there and then a script.js. Cool. So that being said, now it makes sense that like when I have something like this or whatever, right? I can probably do, I don't know, maybe a fetch to localhost 3000, Actually, that's not gonna work. I think it's HTTP. If you forget this, it'll run an error that says like not HTTP. Actually, let's take a look at it. Cool. So you can see it. / beverages. API v1 beverages. I'm trying to hammer that home because you will walk up to me and be like, my API's not working. I'm like, isn't it though? Cool. And this is just the get, right? I'm assuming then that what am I sending back again? Right? Remember, I literally sent JSON. My server is sending JSON. It's rendering JSON. Cool? So a little bit of this. Cool. And then finally, I can then, what? Right? I get the response again, and then I can, whoa, that's not gonna work. Log the response. So far, so good? Cool. URL scheme must contain HTTP. Right? This error look familiar? Well, not really, but I kind of told you it was going to happen. Cool. Access to fetch is blocked. It's been blocked. Something about cores. No access control allow origin. Header is present on the requested resource. Weird. Weird. Let's do this. This is what domain? Cool. If, however, I was on localhost 3000 and I sent that same request, what would I get? What does fetch return? What does fetch return? Cool. Why do you think that when I made a fetch to localhost 3000 from localhost 3000, I had no problems? But making that exact same fetch request to localhost 3000 from Reddit, I ran into some sort of error. That's right. CORS stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. Why would this be the default action in an application? Why would you want no other server to make a request to your origin, which is in development localhost 3000, by default? Would it be safe to say that you don't want anyone you don't know to enter your house? Right? Who locks their door? This is New York City. Oh my God. Don't tell me your address then, please. Or anyone else your address. For those that did not raise their hand. Piece of life advice. Lock your door. Cool? All right. Flatiron School teaches a lot of things. So, how can I then, thank you, yes. How can I then fix this CORS issue? Some CORS gem thing? You did the labs. Cool. Rails, CORS, gem, right? Or Rails CORS. Would that be helpful? Like if you didn't even know it was a gem? You'd be like, hey, I'm getting something from Rails, something about CORS, I need to learn more about it. Great. Wow, first hit. Cool. Let me just learn about what this does. Right. It says, provide support for cross-origin resource sharing. Wow. Is this something worth looking into that might be helpful for you? Right, absolutely. How do I do this? I don't know. Everything looks fine. So, great. Huh? It is, right? It says install this gem. Naturally, in your gem file, I should have some sort of rack CORS. Cool. Let me do that. I need to see whether or not I have something in my gem file called rack CORS. If I did not have this, what would I do? I would just add it. Absolutely. Just add it. So, let's take a look. Yeah. Now that I've added a new gem, I should probably actually install that gem. Cool. Let's spin up that server again. How do I use this? Where would I go to figure out how to use this gem? The documentation, right? Boom, 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 boom. Wow, looks like a lot of stuff in here. But more specifically, there's literally like a getting started on here somewhere. Have you seen it? Nuts and bolts. I think it's called nuts and bolts. Ugh. Rails guide to rack. You know what I'm talking about? No, that's not it. Sebastian, you know what I'm talking about?
What?
There's literally like a getting started. That's all right. We'll find it. Rails course getting started. Where is it? Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to like show them like how I would figure it out. Dang it. It used to be on here, the docs. It's so bizarre.
There was a good blog post that circulated around our news about it that I could try to dig up.
No, it's fine. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I just... Oh, that's all right. Whack. Whack. All right. So now that I have rack cores, I swear you'll find this like later on somewhere. But there's like a how to use this gem, and it for whatever reason. Oh man. All right. Let's just look in the configuration. Cool. So something about my config file, I will have something that looks like this. Cool. Right. I happen to know where it is. Where do you think this cores file would be called? Wow. It's called cores, right? So if you're looking for it, I think it's in config, initializers. Yeah, there it is, cores. This is where the file is. Cool. And all it is I just come here, I uncomment this. The tutorial will kind of tell you what the configuration is, but here, the origins are going to be what origin I want to allow access to, right? Here, I want to create a public API. This asterisk is just computer code for like allow anything. Should have like learned it in like mod 1 Ruby. The asterisk is kind of like any unspecified amount. Cool? Huh? The splat operator, correct. So, thinking through this, right? Who has like made API calls and then all of a sudden realized, oh man, they want me to pay for it after a certain amount, right? Like that freemium nonsense. This is kind of where it happens. I only want to allow the people that payme.com to have access to all of this functionality. So far, so good? What about like free people, free users? I only want them to do get. Sort of like see how this is happening here. Cool. All right, we're not going to do any of this. All right, we're just going to leave this as an open public API. In the same way that you see how Reddit does, I can just go to this users.json, and this is some example data. This isn't like a real user or anything. But this is how they've set up their API. And it's public. Like, I just went to it. And so, from here, that being said, I should be able to make that fetch. Oh yeah. When you make any rack course changes, you should restart the server. That's correct. Oop. And there it is. Cool. So like any origin can now make a request. And here, exactly the data. What you're familiar with. Did this kind of come full circle for you? I'm sorry if I'm boring you. Great. Course is done. Let's move forward, and let's move a little bit quickly since you seem to know what's going on. What is this? All right, I just add ID here. Cool. This particular bev is bev dot what find with the params key of ID, and then I can just render the bev. So now I have the show page, and now I can see either beverages or beverages 1. And that's what it gives me access to, right? Do I need the new? No, because the form that I build manually on my front end with JavaScript is going to be my new. I no longer need that, so I need some sort of create action. And that is going to be a post to /beverages. So now you've seen this before, and what happens here? Great. We hit this create, right? And what comes in? The params? Strong params? Let's take a look. Let's see what's going on here and how we can possibly change how we send our fetch requests. Cool. I do create with a by bug. We don't need this. How can I do that? How can I adjust this? All right, great. So let's do that. Ready? I pass in these options in here. Cool. And the method specifically for this one is going to be a post. What else? I need headers, right? Header or headers? Cool. And what are my headers? Right? So I know I'm going to be sending what? Cool. And then what? What is accept? But what is it?
Don't we have to close the string for a content tag? In have closing.
You're absolutely right. It's a little harder to write without any of the syntax. Cool. And then finally, what do we want to send over? Cool. And what's the body? And we send in back an object, right? Cool. And what do we want to send here? Some sort of size, right? I don't know, 8. Cool. And what else? Fizzy. And then fun. What is fun? Great. Is this good?
We don't have a name.
That's a class, very good. What's the name of this? Huh? Moxie? Moxie. All right, little Moxie action. Cool. What happens when I hit enter? Oh, snap. All right. No, because I never hit enter. Golly. All right, we're gonna do it here. So I have like the helper. Oh man, that's nuts. Cool. Sorry. Oh, I'm never doing that again. Oh man, great. Great, cool. All right. Sweet. Cool. Look up, and then finally body. Cool. And it's just going to be the name, right? Moxie, fizzy, true, and fun. And then size? 9. Cool. We good? All right. What will happen when I send this fetch request? That's right. I'll hit the buy bug. Cool. Promise pending. Interesting. Great. So what is @bev? What is params? Should be everything I send in the body, right? Permitted false, right? So as alluded to earlier, inside here, oops. Inside here I need what? And then what is it? Okay. What is it? Name, fun, fizzy, size. Cool. What? Oh. Great. Cool. So we're good. Let me just get rid of this. And let's continue. Let's send that. What is this 500? What happened? I broke out of this, right? So naturally, it will say that the server threw me an error. Does that make sense? So now, like, that whole thing is yours, the full stack. There's nothing that should be coming back or being sent that you do not control or should not understand. What's happening? There's no then here, right? There it is. See? See what happens when you understand? Everything is more fun. Cool. This is the response. This is what actually came back from here. So far, so good? Great. The problem is, what if you had users, right? The last thing I'll show you. What if you had users? What are the attributes of a user typically in an application? You have some sort of like email address, name, and your password. Do you want to send password back to the front end all the time? No, you don't, right? You don't want to send. There might be attributes that you don't want to expose back to your front end. So there must be some sort of way to prevent all of the attributes from being sent to the front end. You have to be able to control them. So let's do that. There's something called a serializer, right? Cool. I could just do Rails serializer. Boom, boom, boom. Active model serializer. Cool. Let's see how to use this. Oh, this is the one. Stable documentation. Sorry. So this is the one. It says, great, add this gem to your gem file. Cool. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Great. Do that. Quick bundle. Start the server back up. Let's see how to use this. This is the one with the nuts and bolts, right? Getting started for the nuts and bolts. Great. Rails G serializer for my model. Awesome. Rails G serializer for my model, which is, and all it did was it built this beverage serializer inside a serializer folder inside my application. So inside my application, I have something called serializers, beverage serializer. And it just says attributes ID. It pre-built that for me. Therefore, if I were to go back and check out all my beverages, I should just see the model is singular. It just sends ID. So I can then infer that if I had name and some sort of fizzy attribute, it will send back only the ones that I want versus everything. Cool? And all it's doing is it will recognize that there's a serializer here and then it will just wrap inside this beverage serializer.new, and then it will wrap your beverages. So if I'm not insane, that should still work. Or create. No. Should be new. Doesn't like that. It either wraps this or this whole thing. Either way. It's not ultimately important. You can look at the docs for what it's doing, but it's wrapping this object and then sending it back as JSON with only the attributes that you specify in the serializer. If you have something in here, you must also specify your relationships. So here, if you want to do anything, you also have to do like a has many, I don't know, like restaurants or something, all right? So if you have relationships, you have to put it in your model and in your serializer. The attributes that you send over will be the attributes that get hosted in your API and what gets sent back to the front end. Cool? Are there any questions? Great, that's all I have for you today.